Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. How
I'm doing good. Just making sure
good.
I'm set up in case people join early. We actually have 12 people registered.
Yay!
Yes, that'll be good.
That is
Better
really
than,
good.
hold on, let me check with the student one too. All right.
All right, let's see. So I just do share and then I go to my presentation.
Yep.
Okay.
One is mine. So I'm gonna turn this video on. No.
I love those earrings.
Thank you. Okay, let me make sure I have this all set up.
I have an antique, very special lithograph behind me, but it deserves explanation, so I'm just trying to position, so I'm blocking it totally.
My coat rack. I was like, oh.
It's Josephine Baker, but it can look like blackface if you don't know what it is, and it's totally not. So,
People who are attending. Oh, here we go. Participants. All right. So we have one person who's joined us.
okay.
And so we'll wait till 11 till we start.
Excellent.
Okay.
And I'm praying that my dogs don't bark. They're revving themselves up, though. I can hear them.
Since I'm going to turn my cam and my video off because I'm going to do stuff until 11 just so that I don't distract you or the other person who's joined already. Okay?
Okay. Hi, Anna. How are you? You must be muted. I can't hear you. No, I still don't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
There you are. Hello.
Are you ready?
Yes, how are you?
I am great. I was telling Christina that I am not going to have my face while I'm talking. I'd rather have it like she had it,
Yes,
where you, whatever.
just the slides.
Yeah, I want to shut the
Wow.
video. Yeah, because I feel more comfortable because then you can look at things here without having to stare at the
Yes,
camera.
look at the camera.
Yeah, you can
Exactly.
focus on the camera better. So you doing okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I had a great retreat last week, so yes, I feel all zen and full of bliss.
Where did you go?
There's an ashram that I go to in Nassau, in the Bahamas, and it is
A what room?
it's an ashram. It's a spiritual.
Oh, sorry, ashram. I see.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's yoga and meditation, and it's run by monks, and it's people from all over the world that come to do their teacher training and all that stuff. But than people like me who just do yoga go.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
It's in the Bahamas?
Yep, right. It shares the beach with what's that? Atlantis, but you would never know it because it's tucked way at the end in a whole bunch of trees. So most
Oh,
people
wonderful. And how many days is it?
it's every day of the year. So you go when you need to.
Wow. But I
Yeah.
guess you have to call ahead and do whatever you need to do ahead of
Yeah,
time.
yeah, you book online. This is my 5th time going. It's a special, special place.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. I envy you. So you went for a week?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stress can just weigh you down so much. And yeah, it's the place where I go to recharge and get balanced and purge things.
So you're saying it's offered every day, which means that you just call up, make your reservation, and say,
Yeah.
I'm going to be there for a week.
Yep.
And then whatever's going on that week, you partake
Yeah.
of that.
Exactly.
It's not like a program that's only offered a while. That's great.
Nope. And they bring in, like I've been there have been Grammy Award winning musical artists that perform in some of the meditation sessions. This time there was a professor from Wesleyan College who did a talk about race and racism in Buddhism and beyond. She was fantastic.
Wow.
So it just touches you on so many different levels and you never quite know what to expect. But you just leave feeling so good. It's the food is all made there at the site. It's just an amazing.
So what is the name of the place? Like if I wanted to look into it.
Yes, so you can. The easiest way is to Google Nassau Yoga Retreat. The name of it is Sivananda. So it's Sivananda. But if you Google Yoga Retreat in the Bahamas, it'll come up.
Okay, because I have a good friend that I think she's just retired recently. And I think it would be wonderful for her. I mean, I may try it as well one day, but I think she would really love that.
Let me know if she goes. It's very inexpensive. You can go in several different ways. You can go just to be by yourself. You can go stay in a dorm where you'll be matched with 2 or 3 other people. And I've done it all different types of ways. But it's 4 hours of yoga, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 4 hours of meditation, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. You won't be the same.
How long have you been doing it?
This was my 5th time. So I started going in 2009, I think, or 2010.
That's great. We have a professor. I think you would like her a great deal. Her name is Lydia Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a lot of mindfulness. I think she's like the head of the mindfulness program here in Houston.
Wow.
I'm going to tell her about it too, because I don't know that she knows about this.
Oh, she would love it.
Yeah.
Please let me know if they go. And they can call me if they have any questions.
Yeah, well, that sounds exciting. It really does. Well, no wonder you're so relaxed.
Yes.
When you do your classes, I assume you do a few meditation exercises, right?
Yes. Yes. So we're going to do a little bit of breathing today and talk about the benefits of moving your body today and then eating right. But when I'm in front of students, we absolutely do breathing. We do just some easy movements that really purge thoughts and dead air and stale air, but really to get them to think about what you need is inside. You just have to get quiet.
And I know that Lydia has a small class. I have a really big class. I'm not sure that it would work, but she has a very small class, and I audited her class. And they did meditation for about maybe 4 minutes of the class.
Wow.
At the very beginning of the class. And the students, I mean, I came into a class that was an ongoing in the semester. So they do it all the time, and they felt it looked like they were very comfortable doing it.
It makes a big difference. Yeah. It really does.
Well,
and it's like,
go ahead.
When I talk to students, I try to get them to understand that, yes, law school is trying and the bar exam is a major hurdle, but when you start practicing and you're standing before the judge, you got to imagine that is equally, if not more.
So I think that for the 3 L's, I think that's really important because now they're going to be going through 8 weeks where if they don't have that life work balance and so I think for the 1 L's, they're crazy. They're like just doing all kinds of things. They can't really listen to meditation. But I think for the 3 L's, I mean, I think it's valuable at every step. But
Yeah.
I know that I hear my 3L saying like, oh my God, I think I'm going to die. I'm just dying over so much work. So for them, for that third part that we're going to do in about 2 weeks, I think that would be a really good group to really emphasize that stuff.
Yeah, it's so important. And when you start talking about it, you can just see the shoulders go down.
Hey.
Hi. So we have 2 people who have joined us already, but we'll wait another minute or so since the webinar doesn't start until 11.
Okay.
Okay.
Just letting you know. And then, yeah, that's it. Another minute or so, we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm going to shut mine off when it's my turn. So I'm just on the screen because I think it's easier for me. Okay.
Almost there. Just want to make sure that there are people coming right at 11 that we don't start without them.
Yeah.
Do you know, Chrissy, how many looked at the materials from the 1L?
No, you have to ask Linda.
Oh, okay. She keeps all that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 11 o'clock. So thank you all for joining us. Right now we have some of the students who can see us. If you have questions, students, you can always write in the chat and then we'll be able to answer it. But I think you're unable to actually speak through the webinar since it's all muted, so only panelists can speak. But please feel free to send any chat questions as we go along, but we're also gonna save questions for the end of each person's presentation. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Tanea, who's going to go ahead and start us off. And then we'll go over some bar stuff and what you should be doing this summer to start preparing for the bar exam as 2Ls. So take it away.
All right. Let's see. Nope, that's not what we want to do. We want to share and go here. Let me take this off so that you can't see. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome again to the CLEO 2L Bar Readiness Workshop. I'm Tanea McDonald. I am an attorney. I'm an attorney here in Charlotte, North Carolina, a former law school professor, and I worked for Barbary for a number of years doing curriculum development. In my spare time now, as if I have any, I work with law schools, come into law schools and do lectures to get students mentally and emotionally prepared for the bar exam, as well as for the rigors of law school. So let's jump right in and get started. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. Second is I am a CLEO alum. When I was in law school some years ago, I was fortunate enough to find CLEO, and it really served a lot of different purposes for me. I was the only person of color in my law school class, and so CLEO provided me the only opportunity I had to commune with other law students of color, and it really made a huge difference in my life, and I'm still really close to a lot of my CLEO friends now. So I thank you so much for joining, and when I think of CLEO, I always think of a group that looks just like this. And as I put this program together, I had each of you in mind. And so hopefully my goal will be met in that each and every one of you will take at least one thing from each of the lectures today and implement so that you can be successful as you round out law school and on the bar exam the first time. So let's all start on one accord, trying to quiet our minds as much as we possibly can and take one good deep breath where you're inhaling and you're thinking about what you're breathing into your space, and you exhale and you're letting go of everything that does not serve you well in this moment. The goal for the next 15 minutes is to experience bliss. Bliss is a sense of happiness and joy. And yes, you can experience bliss anywhere at any time, even in highly stressful moments like the second year of law school. So let's, throughout the next 15 minutes, be mindful of your breathing, and we're going to go through some breathing techniques as well. So when I think of the 2L year, I think about where you are in your journey, and I love this picture because this is what I think of. You're not at the beginning, which is great. You've learned some things. You know what to expect to some degree. You've mastered some rules of law, but you also know you've got a little bit further to go. And it may be going uphill a little bit as you get to the bar exam, but be thankful and be proud of yourself for being well on your way in the journey. So the 2L year is that special year where you have a good concept of what's going on. So what we want to do now is to focus on ways that you can maintain your balance and your peace of mind for the rest of this journey called law school, into bar study, and maybe into the practice, because you'll need it there too. So I'm going to give you 3 steps. The first one is moving your body. So this is a picture of sun salutations. I am a yogi, and I just got back from a fabulous yoga retreat that I do every couple years, where you really focus on what's going on inside, purge what's not doing well, and breathe in everything that you need to do what you've been created to be. So these are sun salutations, and each one of these poses in Sanskrit is called an asana. And so one good way to maintain balance outside of your life is to make sure you're moving your body, getting rid of stale air and stale thoughts as well. So if these positions of stretching seem to be too much, simply sitting and twisting from left to right has a lot of the same effect. It will purge the stale energy and stale thoughts and bring in fresh energy. So if you think about the teaser that I sent out, and I hope you saw it, what is a surefire way to increase your scores on practice exams by as much as 20%? Well, here's the answer. It's moving your body before you take the exam. This is a study that was done some years ago at the University of Illinois, where they took a group of students, and they took a group of students who were studying for an exam, and they had been sitting and studying for hours. Half of them sat still quietly right before the exam, and the other half got up and took a 20-minute walk. And then they measured their brain activity right before the exam and during the exam. And what they found in this study is that the students that walked just 20 minutes right before the exam had much greater brain activity. And so they further studied those students and the outcomes of that exam, and that's where they found, where the students that took the walk got as high as 20%, scored as high as 20% higher on the exam as the students that just sat there. Keep in mind that these students were similarly situated. They were all studying the same amount of time and sitting still. The difference was found in those who actually moved their bodies. So as I travel to law schools, I have coined this thing called a study stroll. And you can start doing it right now when you're studying for your final exams. You grab a buddy and you grab your study notes and you walk and you quiz each other. And something about that process of getting some fresh air in your lungs, moving your body, helps to get those rules of law and those concepts solidified and categorized in your brain so that you can instantly recall them on the day of the exam. So that's number 1. Moving your body as a way to maintain inner balance, focus, and concentration. Number 2, breathing. Now, we're all doing it right now. We have to stay alive. But studies show that the average person breathes in a very shallow way. And shallow breathing doesn't get you the benefit that the oxygen is supposed to provide for us. So when I think of breathing, to maintain my balance, it's that deep breathing. And deep breathing is one of the best ways to reduce stress. When you breathe deeply, you actually send a message to your brain to calm down and relax. And deep breathing also brings your awareness away from the worries in your mind and into the present and all of the possibilities of the present. So when you think of deep breathing, a lot of people don't understand that the key to deep breathing is on the exhale, not the inhale. So together, let's practice a very simple breathing technique. And so what we're going to do is inhale slowly for 4 seconds. We're going to hold that breath in for 2 seconds and exhale for 8. So let's do it together. Sit up straight and tall. You can have your hands in your lap, or you can actually put one hand on your chest and the other on your belly. And let's inhale together on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4. Hold. 1, 2, and exhale slowly on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4, on 5, on 6, on 7, on 8. Easy breathing technique. I'll ask you to do that 3 times before your next exam. Once the door closes on the exam room and the proctors begin, before you do anything, try taking 3 deep breaths. And also, when you go to bed at night, get in bed, lay on your back, assume this position on the screen, place your hands on your belly so that you can really feel the rise and fall of your tummy. And on the exhale, try to, along with exhaling, push every ounce of air out of your system that you can. And then take a nice, slow, steady inhale. These breathing techniques work. The American Stress Institute, which I didn't know existed, but it does, considered breathing and deep breathing a super stress buster. So this is something that's free, that you can do anywhere, and that studies show serves you well. So when we look at the third aspect of making sure that you are working at your optimal level with the utmost of concentration and inner balance, then we have to look at everything and make sure that we're doing it consciously, right? Even what we eat. So now we're into tip 3. You have to start eating consciously. Well, what does that mean? Number 1, you need to eat breakfast. And number 2, weave in brain food. So this is an idea of brain foods. I don't know where they're going. There they are. But the general rule is the darker, the richer the color of the food, and the closer to its natural state the food is, the better it is for your brain. So you want to make sure that every opportunity you get, you are weaving in brain foods, because you have to make sure you have good mental balance and your emotional balance is in the right place, but you also have to show up at your peak physical level as well. So with that in mind, you also need to start exercising. Exercising can be as simple as a nice walk outside your house or your apartment, but you've got to move your body and move away from your study materials at some point. So exercise is important. We talked about breathing techniques. You can find a plethora of them on the web, and start drinking more water. And I include green tea because it's an antioxidant and it's very healthy. It's one of those whole food things that you can get, and it's relatively inexpensive. But here's one thing to think about. Sleep deprivation and dehydration present very similarly to us in that we are lethargic, we're tired, unable to focus, and unable to concentrate. That is exactly what you don't want and how you don't want to feel when you show up for the bar exam, for any exam, or for court in the morning when you're representing a client. You want to optimize every aspect of yourself when you have to show up and show out, which is what you'll have to do on the bar exam. So in order to increase concentration and focus and to be energized, you want to make sure that you're well rested and that you are hydrated. So when we think about that also, you want to be mindful of your bedtime. I suggest, and I ask you today to set a bedtime and stick to it, meaning that every night of the week, maybe you give yourself one night to stay up late, you go to sleep at your predetermined bedtime. For me, when I was in law school, that was 10 p.m. When I studied for the bar exam, I went to sleep every night at 10 p.m. because sleep is the only time that your brain can process the information that it receives that day. And you need your brain to process and categorize and compartmentalize these rules so that on your exam day, in the bar exam day, you can instantly recall those rules in a succinct manner, an accurate manner, and get them out on the exam. And sleeping is the only time that your brain has an opportunity to process. So if you don't sleep, then you're not processing all that you've spent the day putting into your brain. So sleeping is of the utmost importance. Choose a bedtime, stick with it. I guarantee you that will serve you well throughout law school and definitely as you study for the bar exam. And I also suggest that you start doing Sudoku. You can find them online. You can get an app. They're free, but they are training the brain to look for what's missing. And that is what you're doing on the bar exam. So moderate your caffeine, get your sleep, and really focus on the 3 tips of the day. So your steps are ordered. You know what you have to do for your classes. You know you have to master the rules of law, but don't forget about yourself in the process. Number 1, breathe deeply as often as possible. Second, move your body every opportunity that you get. And number 2, make sure you're putting good things into your body and into your mind so that when you need to get good things out, your brain is able to focus, get things out in the right way so that you can pass the bar exam and every exam that you have to take in life the first time. I wish you the best. I thank you for your time today. Breathe deeply, remain hopeful. Namaste.
All right, thank you so much, Tanya, for your presentation. We're now going to go ahead and turn it to Anna so she can discuss the bar exam and the components of the actual bar exam. So if you could cancel out of your share screen so she can come on and share her screen instead, that would be great. So where it says share screen, you would just stop the screen share.
Letting me.
On the bottom. Are you able to find it? I think you're on mute, so I can't hear you.
You're talking to Tanea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can just try to share your screen.
I did.
I did. Then it will. You did?
I did. Well, it says, yeah, I'm trying to, says it will stop the other screen, which is what I want. So.
Yeah, go ahead and press that. So then it'll go, there we go.
That's it.
All right. So you can go ahead and share your screen now and then begin your part of the presentation.
Well, hi, everyone. This is Anna Otero. That was a very exciting and great presentation. I wish I would have had some of that when I was in law school. It really would have been terribly helpful to me, but we didn't have that stuff then. So my name is Anna Otero. I am a law professor at Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston, Texas. I teach civil procedure, evidence, on a 3L course that prepares the students for the first day of the Texas bar. I also work very closely with our academic support department here at the school, and I teach a number of their programs. I am really privileged to teach all levels of law school, which is unusual for most professors. But I am able to teach civil procedure, evidence, and a 3L class so that I get to see everyone evolve from 1Ls to actually hooding at graduation, which is a lot of fun and very rewarding, I should say. I've also been privileged to work with CLEO for maybe 12 years. And so I'm delighted to be here today to share some thoughts about what you should be already doing to prepare for the 2L or doing your 2L year, preparing for the bar. And my presentation today will cover what you need to know about the bar exam, its components, the differences among the various jurisdictions, and hopefully I will have some really good suggestions for you on how to begin preparing as early as today. So you've heard the expression, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And while this is overly abused, the analogy of running a marathon to the law school process is really on point because both require commitment, dedication, and preparation, and that's why we're here today. to offer you really valuable tips and suggestions on how to best prepare as a 2L for the bar. So let me see if I can get you here from the current slide. Yeah, great. Okay, so this whole presentation is about preparing today for the bar exam, for the ultimate bar exam. So what is the bar exam and what exactly does it cover? Well, the reality is that probably by this time you have some idea about the bar exam. The bar exam is going to be a licensing examination that is offered, administered in each state to assess whether a candidate qualifies for admission to practice law in that state. You probably have some familiarity with the bar exam that you will be taking in your state, and you know that, for example, it has a number of components that are shared by many states, but you may not know exactly all the components that it has. It is a sort of a difficult exam, but it's difficult because it covers so many topics, right? And so really good idea to know as much as you possibly can about your specific bar exam early on. And now is a great time to really become familiar with that. So my next question, are all bar exams the same? The exact components of the bar vary by state. And though over 30 jurisdictions have now adopted the uniform bar exam, what I'm going to call throughout this presentation the UBE, basically nearly every jurisdiction utilizes some component of the UBE. So there are some variations, and that's why it's so important for you to know exactly what this exam is about. The components of the bar exam are basically three. These are the three main components that most jurisdictions use, and I'm going to go into a lot of detail about all of this. In most jurisdictions, they will use the multiple choice exam, the essays, and the performance test. And so let's really begin thinking about why is this important for you to know at this point? Does it matter where you are taking the bar exam? And the answer is yes, it does matter. Because if you're taking the Florida bar exam, for example, you need to know whether that jurisdiction uses the uniform bar exam. And if it does it also use or implement a state-specific portion? So even where a jurisdiction offers a UBE, it may also choose to have an additional state-specific portion. So that's really important for you to be very familiar with your state bar exam. So once you know what state exam you will be taking, go to their website, find out as much as you possibly can about that bar exam, and just that will make you very ready for the exam. Of course, you need to be checking the websites right before you take the bar, because exams and exam instructions vary and change. And so we need to always be on top of the most recent material that has been published by your jurisdiction. So let's talk a little bit about the uniform bar exam. And in a minute, this will be important why we are beginning with the UBE. The uniform bar examination is offered by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. This is an important term for you to know, the National Conference of Bar Examiners, because if you are in a jurisdiction that is offering the uniform bar exam, then you should also visit the website, the official site of the National Conference of Bar Examiners, because as I walk through this presentation, I will share with you how much material they have and how important it is for you to be able to access some of that material ahead of the game and have it perhaps in a bar binder, which is what I ask my students to do, to have all the information about the bar in a binder. So the National Conference has three exams that are what compose the UBE. The first one is a multi-state bar examination, the MBE, which you probably already know is a multiple choice examination. The second one is the MEE, which is a multi-state essay examination. And the third one is a multi-state performance test, commonly called the Mpt. The UBE is administered over 2 days, the last week of February and the last week of July. The MBE is always in every jurisdiction on the last Wednesday of these 2 months, and the MEE and the Mpt are offered on Tuesday. In Texas, for example, we currently do not use the uniform bar exam, and so our exam is a 3-day exam. The Tuesday, we offer a state-specific portion, which is Texas Civil and Criminal Procedure. We offer the Mpt. And then on the third day of the exam, which is the Wednesday, we actually have all of the Texas-specific subject essays. 12 of them, 6 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon. So our exam varies quite a lot from your typical UBE. But the UBE will be 2 days, as I've already said, and the MBE is offered in every jurisdiction on a Wednesday. So the exam is uniformly administered, graded, and scored, I should say, by user jurisdictions, and of course it results in a portable score. And what a portable score means is that if you are in a jurisdiction that offers the UBE, you can actually transfer the score, if it's a score that qualifies, to another jurisdiction in applying to the bar. The UBE is generally a 400-point scale exam. Minimum passing score is between 260 and 280. And so you can probably use a score at that level or higher to apply to a jurisdiction that also uses a UBE. And when we do a 3L presentation, there's other things I want to talk about, but at this point in your life, it might be too early, because even when states are not offering the UBE, they do have reciprocity, but we don't need to get into that for this particular presentation. Okay, so those are the 3 components, the MBE, the MEE, and the MPT, and we want to talk in a lot of detail about each one of these, and I want to share with you some suggestions on how to begin working and thinking about preparing for these 3 separate components of the exam as early as, if not now, this coming summer. So if you look at the chart in front of you, you will notice that 34 jurisdictions have adopted or soon will adopt the UBE. February 2021, for example, is the Texas first cycle of the UBE. So my students right now, my civil procedure students right now, I have a 1-year civil procedure class. They are the first group of my students that will be sitting for the uniform bar exam. As you can see, Illinois and Ohio will be starting in July 2019, but all the other states on this website, or on this slide, I should say, offer the UBE already. And so if you're sitting for any one of these states, you are doing the UBE, your next thing will be to check whether, in addition to the uniform bar exam, your state also requires a state-specific portion. But otherwise, that would give you a lot of guidance to at least know where you're at. So let's look at the components of the UBE. What I like to do next is I like to look at each of the 3 exams and talk to you a little bit about how they are composed and what you could do to begin preparing studying for them now. All right, let's look at the multi-state bar exam. This is the MBE. This is an exam that is composed of 200 questions, 100 in the morning, 100 in the afternoon. Each section is 3 hours, and so you have 180 minutes for 100 questions, which pretty much comes out to 1.8 minutes per question. So it's a time-sensitive exam. Only 175 of the 200 questions are actually scored or graded, and they are divided evenly in 25 questions per topic. 25 for civil procedure, 25 for constitutional, and so on. You can notice by just looking at this slide that these are topics, or these are courses, I should say, that you have already taken. And if you're in a 2L, in some schools, evidence is offered in the 2nd semester, so you might be doing that right now. But in my school, my students would have been through with all of these classes already by this time, because we only have a 1-semester evidence class. So most of you have probably done all of these topics that are covered in the MBE. The other thing I want you to highlight in this PowerPoint is the fact that for the UBE, this portion of the exam, the multi-state bar exam, counts as 50% of your score. And that's another item of preparation that I think it's important, right? You really need to know how a test is valued in terms of its components, because that will help you focus your studying accordingly. These percentages, by the way, vary if you are in a state that does not have the UBE, right? We'll talk about that later. All right, so the National Conference of Bar Examiners, on its official site, if you click on NCBE exams and then you click on the MBE, this is really very easy to do, and then you click on preparing, will take you to a section called subject matter outlines. And what the National Conference does is it actually gives you a focus on how they're going to test all of these different areas, the areas that are mostly tested on the exam. So for example, I've only included one short section of civil procedure here, But notice what it says. Approximately 2/3 of the civil procedure questions on the MBE will be based on categories 1, 3, and 4. I've only given you category 1 because I don't have a whole lot of time to go into details, but I wanted to make sure that you understood that there is a subject matter outline. What this means is that at least 14 questions of civil procedure on the multiple choice exam will be at least in the areas of this category 1, which is heavily covered in class, and then 3rd and 5th category. So this is easily accessible by having all of this in what I like to call the bar binder. You can study with focus, right? Because you know that, for example, it is important for you to know federal subject matter jurisdiction because you're going to get at least 4 questions, if not more, in that area alone. And so focus is very important. I'll give you another example. If you went to the hearsay or to the subject matter outline in evidence, it talks about the fact that 1/5 of the 25th questions is in hearsay. So if hearsay, which I know is an area that students struggle with when I teach evidence, if this is an area that it's not your best area, just know that you are going to get at least 5 to 6 questions. And so it's a really good idea to focus on understanding hearsay. So the subject matter outlines give you a very good focus from the bar examiners. These are the people that are preparing these exams. And it's really good prep to have way before you take that exam. So you don't have to wait till a 3L to do this. I don't believe these subject matter outlines will change between now and the time you take your exam. So I would download all of the subject matter outlines for each of the MBE topics, include them in a bar binder, and that's information that's going to serve you well later on. Okay, so what can you do to prepare for the MBE now? If your law school has an academic support program, and I know Professor Chong will be speaking about that, but if your law school has one, I know we do, I would begin by saying in all of these suggestions for the various components that you visit with your academic support program department and that you get direction and guidance from them. Because these are this is a resource, I should say, that is really very valuable. So for example, we have a very strong academic support program at TMSL, my school. We do 1L Skills Academy. We do 2L essays and MPT workshops. We do mini bars for the 3Ls. We counsel students who have specific weakness areas. And we just offer a wealth of information and talent. And so I would say if that is available to you, begin with them so that they can provide you with anything that you need to begin thinking about how to study for the bar now. But since you have taken the MBE courses, I would say that this coming summer, you probably could do something like reviewing the commercial outlines in each of the topics that will be tested in the MBE. You want to refresh the material, you want to create flashcards, you want to do rule statements. In other words, you want to look at those outlines very carefully, and you want to begin creating an outline that now makes more sense to you because you're now in your 2nd year. It makes a lot more sense to you than it did the 1st year. And now you want to really condense it and work it and massage it and make it work for you so that when the bar study period comes, you have already had a chance to review the material. So I want you to think about this. All of the MBE topics are generally tested or are generally taught at law school in your 1st year and probably the 1st semester of your 2nd year. For many students, they never see any of this material again until they get to the bar exam study period. And that's a long way off. That's 2 years in between. And so you don't want to have to relearn it. You want to be refreshed early on so that by the time you're doing your study period, it's really a refresher course, a truly refresher course, and you have been on top of it. So I would begin trying to do that at this point. I would practice MBE questions, right? Begin practicing questions in the area that you have the most difficulty with. So again, by the time next year comes around, which will come about in a minute, you already have practiced looking at MBE questions. I would always remind you that when you look at MBE questions, let's say you take 10 questions, always review the wrong questions or the right answers as well, because if you got 10 out of 20 questions correct, and you don't look at the 10 answers that you got correct, you might have gotten the answer for the wrong reasons. And so I want you to always be very mindful and meticulous in the way you review those MBE questions. You probably have MBE questions available in a variety of sources. I know that CLEO is making available to you at a really huge discount the Quimby course. And Quimby offers all kinds of wonderful materials for the bar. They offer MBE questions, they offer outlines. So please look into that, because that is a really good resource at this point. And then the last thing I would do in preparing for the MBE, besides looking at outlines, creating your more personalized outline materials and flashcards and so on, and practicing questions, the last thing I would think about seriously is what 3L curriculum or what 3L classes can you take to help you with the MBE, right? I know that we, for example, at TMSL, we offer an MPT class. We offer an advanced bar review class, which is the MBE, and it's a whole semester where we have professors come in and teach a section of each of the topics of the bar that are covered on the MBE. And so that's one way of really planning ahead. If you know that there are classes that prepare you for the MBE exam or for exam taking strategies, or if there are workshops that are available, do it now, because it's a great refresher. It's a really good way to getting all that information now. Okay, so let's look at the multi-state essay exam. Obviously, this is the essay exam. You're going to have, under the UBE regime, 6 30-minute questions. This is administered by the user jurisdictions. The jurisdictions grade the ME and they determine their own policy with regard to the relative weight, but usually it counts as 30% of your score. And as you can see on my right of the slide, there are multiple areas that could be given as an exam on the multi-state essay exam. You have business associations, corporations. Notice that a lot of these topics are your first year classes, right? Civil procedure, towards contracts, real property. So a lot of them may be pulled from the MBE topics as well, but then there are other areas that are not from the first year courses, business associations, corporations, and the like. So this is basically an essay exam, time sensitive, because you only have 30 minutes per question. And so what this is testing is everything that you have already at this point learned in law school. You are going to be fine-tuning it in your third year of law school, but clearly this is an essay exam, and the purpose is for you to identify the legal issues raised by the hypothetical factual situation, to separate the material that is relevant from that which is not, present a reasoned analysis, and a clear, concise, and well-organized composition. And most important, you have to demonstrate an ability to communicate effectively in writing. So clearly the essay exams, which you have been doing in law school, will be a wonderful foundation for the essay exams on the bar. You just need to fine tune, and then of course you have a greater number of topics that will be tested on the bar. So that's one challenge, the number of topics that might be tested on the bar. So in terms of being prepared, there's a lot of things that you can do, but one of them, again, I'm gonna direct you to the subject matter outlines of the national conference, because it also presents you with focus areas on the ME exams. So again, this is way before the exam. You want to prepare by looking at these subject matter outlines, having some serious idea of what the exam covers before you begin your study, so that your focus will be well placed, so that you're not studying things, for example, that are not going to be tested. And these are the people that create that exam, so they're going to give you a focus on the questions that they're actually designing for you. Okay, so what can you do to prepare for the multi-state essay exam now? Again, visit your academic support program. I'm not going to talk too much about that since I've already covered that. Plan your 3L curriculum, so that there may be some courses that you want to take that fine-tune your legal analysis and enhance your writing skills. For example, at my law school, we offer independent research courses. We offer seminars. I teach a death penalty seminar in the summer where students are required to write a 20-page paper. So all of these writing opportunities with feedback, individual feedback, are important in helping you to fine-tune your skills in writing essays. Academic support programs will also help the students that struggle with essays. There are some students that are really great with a multi-state, the multiple choice questions, and there are some students that are not so great with those, but wonderful with the essays. And so depending on who you are, take advantage of anything that is offered and available in your law school. And again, Quimby has a lot of practice that you may want to look at to make sure that you get where you need to go. But I will say this, most states post previous bar exam questions. New York, for example, has a lot of essay questions from the ME with suggested answers. They're not going to post obviously the multi-state bar exam, not the multiple choice, but they do have sample or previous, and not really sample, previous bar exam questions, essay questions that they used in former administrations with sample answers. We do that in Texas as well. And so you want to visit your state official bar site that you will be sitting for and see what they have available in terms of posting their old exams or former exams. You may also want to visit the NCVE website to access ME questions and analysis from older administrations. And like I said, Quimby also will provide you with sample ME questions and then suggested answers. So these are all of the resources that are available to you. The more you know about these resources, the better off you are. If you have nothing better to do with your life during the summer, I'm sure you will, but if you have some spare time, go into some of the websites for your states and look to see how much material is available in terms of publishing older administrations. It's really very helpful to do that. Okay, so next we move on to the multi-stage performance test. I'm going to spend just a few minutes on this test, but this is one test that I think my students at least find very challenging because there is nothing for us to teach you in terms of substance. The MPT is an exam that basically tests everything that you have learned in law school, your ability to write, your ability to spot legal issues, and to prepare a work product that is cohesive, that is well written, and that is well organized. So in the UBE, there will be two 90-minute MPT exams. It counts as 20% of your grade. As I said before, it is basically designed to test fundamental lawyering skills in a realistic situation and your ability to complete a task. So that's the most important thing that you need to remember. You have to complete that task. The skills tested by the MPT may be problem solving because you're given a problem as if you were a lawyer, a new associate in a law firm. And you are given, we'll talk about it in a minute, but you're going to be given a work product, and the idea is for you to resolve the issue, right? You're going to be receiving a file and a set of legal sources, and you have to resolve the issue. So they're testing your ability to problem solve, your ability to do legal analysis and reasoning, your ability to analyze factually what you're being given. They're testing organization and management of the task. And in some of these MPTs, they also test ethical dilemmas, but not in all of them, but in some of them, they absolutely do. So mostly the MPTs are going to be requesting you to do a memorandum of law. However, the examiners may do a variety of different requests, such as a persuasive brief, a closing argument, a client's letter, a position paper, even a will. And so my suggestion to you is that when you are studying and practicing multi-state performance tests, you do a variety of different exams, not just the ones that request a memo, because you want to be ready to do something that you may not have done before. So this is the MPT is a time and data management exam. And why do I say that? Because you're given approximately 18 to 20 pages of documents and legal sources, and you have to read through that material in 90 minutes and also prepare a written work product. So you have 90 minutes to read through it and prepare the work product, right? So basically, if we were going to allocate, and we're going to do a lot more of this in the 3L workshop, but for now, all you need to do is basically you have 45 minutes to read through the file in the library, understand what the task is, organize your paper, and then the last 45 minutes is writing the work product. So it's really highly time sensitive, and data management is important because you have all of these materials that you have to work with that are important to understand as you go through them, and you don't have a lot of time to take to read all of them. So 90 minutes for each of the exams. Let me show you, this is a real MPT, a former, an old MPT, I should say. And this was a table of contents from that MPT. You notice right away that it had 6 documents. In fact, those 6 documents had about 10 pages, right? Because at least the second one, the notes from the meeting, had about maybe 3 pages. So 6 documents in the file that you're given as a lawyer to review, and then 4 documents in the library. They always have the same thing, statutes, and they always have the same thing, at least 3 cases. So obviously, 3 cases and a set of statutes is going to be another 11 pages, more or less. So you can see how this is lengthy, voluminous material to read in a very short period of time. What I've posted here is the actual summary of the February 2018 MPT that was posted on the National Conference website. And I just wanted you to look at what was expected of you in that particular test. You know, and this may be something that you may not have done before. So that's why it's important to be as prepared as you possibly can be by doing a number of these MPTs before your exam, your actually bar exam. So notice in this particular MPT, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is an MPT where you are required to draft an argument in support of the reading of a victim impact statement. In other words, there has been a motion denying, by the defendant, denying that the victim read an impact statement, and you are tasked with the job of actually drafting an argument, trying to persuade the court as to why it's very important for these victims to offer an impact statement. So you have a file that contains instructional memorandum, guidelines from writing these persuasive trial briefs, newspaper articles, and so on. And then you have a library that contains the statute and also 3 of the cases. So understanding the amount of material that you are required to do for an MPT, understanding the purpose of the MPT is exceedingly important, even at this juncture, even at this early stage of your law school career. So what can you do to prepare? Again, visit with academic support. They may have some workshops like we do in my school. We have a whole class, MPT workshop, and it goes on for the full semester. In the 3rd year, that would be useful. They introduce you to the MPTs, and you do at least 6 or 7. That might be available in your school. Plan your curriculum. Even if you don't have an MPT workshop, to again take classes that are going to fine-tune your legal analysis and your writing skills, because that's what the MPT requires, and the ME. And then practice MPT questions. The National Conference has a number of old or older administrations posted with point sheets, which are the suggested answers. Review the Quimby Bar Prep MPT strategy, because it's a great guide to really familiarize you with everything you need to know about the MPT. And by the way, Quimby does that for the MBE as well. Those guides are really helpful in understanding how this process works. And then review Quimby. Hopefully you will take advantage of the discount and see what they offer in terms of the MPT. But practicing some questions before the exam is paramount. Knowing about the exam and how it's composed is key, but knowing how to approach the exam and actually practicing and getting valuable feedback is also exceedingly important. So that's basically the 3 exams. I want to just share for the last slide dealing with the MPT. I grade a lot of MPT exams. This semester I have 120 students that are graduating in May, and I just finished grading 120 MPTs. These comments that I have posted here are also the comments that Texas used to post on their website when they graded the MPTs. And this is some of the problems. Time management, clearly, because a lot of students are not very familiar with trying to jam all that writing and reading within a 90-minute period, failure to follow instructions, failure to properly introduce the answer. All that has to do is with failure to really analyze what they want you to do. And this is not the workshop where we can go into all of that. But these comments made by examiners who grade MPTs will give you an idea of where the students may find some challenges. Time management, failure to incorporate a legal framework that you need to extrapolate from the cases and the statutes. In some instances, weak analysis, and in some instances, omitting key aspects of the discussion. So this is just something I wanted you to have, because I wanted you to see how examiners look at the work product. So this is sort of the rubric that I use when I grade these exams. For the rubric are a little bit more complex than this, but I do want the students to know if they have had these issues. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk very quickly about the Mpre. You may have already taken the Mpre. This is the multi-state professional responsibility exam. You may know that this is a 2-hour exam. It is 60 questions of multiple choices. I'm sorry, I should say multiple choice questions. It is administered 3 times a year, March, August, and November. Most bar exams require, most states require, but there are some exceptions. I would say that you need, again, to check with your jurisdiction. And here's what the exam is about. Really, the purpose of the Mpre is to test your knowledge and understanding of the rules of professional conduct by which you will be guided, right? When you become a lawyer, you will take an oath of office, and then you are guided by the rules of professional conduct of your state. So on the Mpre, you will be tested on the ABA model rules of professional conduct, the ABA model rule of judicial conduct, and any controlling constitutional decisions that have come down the pike. I will tell you this, I have taken 4 bar exams, and when I came to Texas, I had just been practicing law in Florida for 7 years, and I came to Texas, and I had to take an Mpre, which I had not taken before in Florida. And I thought, well, I certainly know how to take this exam. I don't think I need to take a course. And so I looked at one of the review courses, and I realized that I didn't know as much as I thought I knew, because even though I was a practicing lawyer, I didn't really know all about all of the judicial canons and the judicial conduct and all these very serious nuances of the rules of professional conduct. So my suggestion to you is that you do take a course. Quimby offers a free course. You may really want to look into that, because that's fabulous. This was not available when I went to law school, but Quimby has a lot of just free materials. They have a lecture, notes, Mpre outlines, Q banks, all kinds of wonderful stuff, and it's free, and you should absolutely look into that. And do it quickly, because you can take that bar exam early on and not have to worry about it later while you're studying for the big bar exam in July. These are the other states that do not have the uniform bar exam. Now, all of these states do share components of the bar exam, because all of these states, I should say, not most, all of these states will have the MBE, the multiple choice portion of the exam. All of them will have some variation of an essay exam, but some, like Texas, may offer only exams that are based on state-specific laws. In Texas, for example, we do have an MPT, we have the MBE. The essays are our own essays prepared by the Texas examiner, so they do not do civil procedure or torts. It's just state-specific portions, not MBE topics. And then we have a Texas procedure, criminal procedure exam, which is, of course, only state-specific. So make sure you look at the states that are not offering the uniform bar exam to ascertain exactly what it is that they're offering. So, as I just mentioned, there is a combination of MBE and state-specific exams. So make sure you check those websites to know exactly what's being offered. The National Conference of Bar Examiners also offers a really good guide to bar admission requirements. It provides, information regarding statistics, regarding specific bar information, and it's just really a good source. And I put it here because if you visit the National Conference of Bar Examiners and spend an hour or two, you could probably print some stuff to include in your bar binder that might be very useful as you move into your 3rd year of law school. So planning ahead, besides everything else we have talked about, I just want to keep in mind, I want you to keep in mind that for the UBE, the writing portion of the exam constitutes 50% of the exam. In Texas, it constitutes, for example, 60% of the exam. So anything that you do in terms of your curriculum for your 3L is going to be helping a large portion of the exam, and it's going to be preparing you, fine-tuning the skills that you have already learned, honing those skills, and making you better and making you feel more familiar, not only with the material itself substantively, but with the practice of the actual questions. And all of that is really, really valuable stuff to do early on. Okay, so that's it for me. I just want you to focus on the types of things that you can do to get ready for that exam, which is basically around the corner. I know it's a year away, but last year of law school will fly, and then here comes the exam. And if you've done a lot of this stuff early on, you will be in a really good place. So I'll pass it on to Professor Chong, is also going to give you a lot of good pointers, and I'm going to stop my share. I wish you all a lot of luck, and please send any questions that you may have. It's great being here with you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that information. Hopefully you all understand the components of the bar examination. Again, if you have a state that does not adopt the UBE, I definitely think working with your academic support program or going on the bar website for your state bar will help you. What I'm going to do now is close out the presentation for the last 10 minutes to give you some concrete to-dos for the next year or so to make sure that you're ready for the bar exam. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, sorry. So hopefully you can hear this, see this. All right, so who am I? My name is, oh, hold on, I'm gonna see if I can close this really quick. Sorry, just give me one moment. All right, I don't want to distract you with my video. Okay, so my name is Professor Chong, Professor Christina Chong. I work at the UC Irvine School of Law, and I actually work in the academic and bar exam support program at the school. So this was the program that Professor Antero was talking about that we highly advise you to take advantage of in your class, in your law school. What I'm going to talk about today is one, what is academic support in case you're not even sure what I'm talking about. And then two, what you should be doing this summer to prepare for the bar exam, which is pretty much just a quick summary of what you just heard in part 2, and then get into some of the resources that are actually available to you. So the first part, what is academic support? Academic support is pretty much a free program at your school that provides academic assistance to all law schools. Now, the word free is all relative because it's included in your tuition, and this is why I always encourage students to take advantage of their academic skills or academic support program because it's already included as something that you're paying for anyways. It's either going to be run by faculty, staff, or students. It just depends on the makeup of your school. For us, we have faculty/staff that sort of work, and we also have student fellows. So we have the full 3 different divisions of types of people who can support you at our school, but it's your job to kind of figure out what do you have at your school. What most academic support programs will offer you are one-on-one appointments, hypotheticals that you can do to practice for the bar or for law school classes, and a lot of times they'll even give you written feedback, which you just learned in part 2 that we have talked about is key to improving your performance on the bar examination and in law school. The first time you probably saw one of your academic support professors or staff or student would have been at orientation, but if you check your schedule, it's likely that they're also teaching workshops throughout the semester and even hosting unit credit classes. And we'll talk about whether you should be attending those or taking the actual classes. In terms of the size of your program, it's going to range from 1 to 5 people in most cases. It just depends on how big your school is and what type of resources they have available. If there are more people, it's more likely you'll be able to get more one-on-one attention versus if there are less people, then you're probably going to get more of the attention through workshops or classes. And then finally, the academic program, please remember that it actually also offers bar support, or even if they don't explicitly offer you bar support, everything you do in law school is going to help you pass the bar exam because the skills you're being taught in law school and being tested on are the same skills that you're going to be tested on for the bar exam. And so for academic skills, people will call it ASP. So maybe some people at your school have referred to it as ASP. And the S can stand for skills, support, success. There's many different ways that schools address this program. So what I want you to do is really make sure you contact your academic skills program as soon as possible. You can search your school's website for the contact information. Email the director, assistant director, professor, or student fellow if you know who's in charge of academic support. You can't find it on the website or you don't know who the director is, I encourage you to ask your student services department. In most cases, they know exactly what you're talking about and they can point you in the right direction. If for some reason student services doesn't know what you're talking about, ask your professors or ask upperclassmen. There will be someone in your circle that can point you in the right direction. Because what I want you to do, what we all want you to do, is to set up an individual appointment with your ASP program to create a bar preparation plan. And so that is the first thing on your to-do list after you leave this webinar that we would like you to do, is this spring, find time to meet with your ASP or bar prep department to figure out what should I be doing this summer and what classes should I enroll in this summer if you have the option to take summer courses, or this fall, right? We want to have you both in skill-focused classes as well as substance-focused classes. But depending on your performance in law school or what resources your school has, you might do one or the other or both. And so skill classes will give you more hands-on practice, where you'll be doing lots of essays, you're learning how to do essays to pass the bar, maybe doing some of the MPTs or multiple choice. A lot of application of the law. Versus the substance-focused classes, which are also called doctrinal classes, will cover the subject matter that's tested on the MBEs or the whole bar exam. So for example, contracts, con law, all those 1L classes will be considered your doctrinal classes. Versus if you took a class like legal analysis or legal analysis of evidence, that would be more of a skills class. And so you want a good balance of these classes, and that's where your ASP department, bar prep department can help you put together a good schedule, or even student services could help. The second thing that you really, or the third thing you really want to do is also enroll in classes that are going to satisfy your graduation requirements. That's your writing requirement, if you have a clinic requirement, any other requirements you have. A lot of students in their 3L year wait to do their clinic or their writing requirements in the spring of their 3L year, when they should be actually preparing for the bar already. So if there's a way for you to get out all these graduation requirements by the time you finish your fall semester of your 3L year, that would be highly advisable and make your bar prep season much easier and allow you to start preparing earlier in the spring. The fourth thing that we would want you to do is to make sure you pass the Mpre if you haven't yet. If you've already passed the Mpre, great. If you haven't passed it yet, then make sure you register and take it on August 10th. I would not wait to take it in November, and I would definitely not wait to take it in March of your 3L year. If you don't pass in August of this year, that's okay. That gives us a chance to take it again in November. But we definitely don't want to be dealing with the Mpre, if possible, in the spring. So if you notice, all of these tips I'm giving are for you to finish up all these other requirements related to your graduation and licensing, except for the actual bar itself, before we hit spring, so that in spring you can definitely focus just on studying for the bar exam. What else you can do to sort of start preparing that doesn't relate to actual examinations or schools is sort of what Professor Altero said, which is start looking at the specifics of your state bar exam. You know, review the presentation about the MBE. Most of the states use the MBE, but then you also want to think about the essays. What are the subjects tested on your exam? What are the, what is the length? How many essays, right? Because depending on what subjects are tested, this could influence what subjects you want to enroll in during your 3L year. For example, in California, we have wills and trusts on our exam. We also have California community property. So a lot of students specifically enroll in those classes during their 3L year so that they can prepare for the bar exam that they're going to take after they graduate. It also lets you start practicing in a time setting if you take some of those skills classes. And then finally, the PT. If your jurisdiction adopts the UBE, then you really can just review Professor Zontero's presentation, because she went through all the details in deep detail. But if not, then you have to do a little bit more research on your state bar website to really figure it out. The other stuff you kind of want to start learning is how your score is calculated and how much is each portion worth. So for example, on the California bar exam, the MBE is worth 50%. So if there's a class that you can take that will help your MBE skills, then we would highly advise you to take that class. Whereas the MPT or the PT version is only worth about 13%. So when you're deciding what classes to take or what to prepare for, you want to get the most bang for your buck. But every jurisdiction is different. So understanding this information helps you make better decisions as you're enrolling in classes. And this is where, if you're unable to get the information on your own from the state bar website, the academic support or your student services can really help you understand what you should be doing to really make yourself prepared for the bar exam. You should also start practicing and memorizing. And so what does this mean, and why am I suggesting this? You need two things to pass the bar exam. One, you have to have the skills. And two, you need to know the law. If you don't know the law, it's going to be very hard to apply the skills. And so this is the reason Professor Antero was encouraging you to start now reviewing the information or to take a lot of these bar classes in law school. There's this theory that's called spaced repetition. And it's a learning technique that incorporates increasing intervals of time between subsequent review of previously learned material to help a learner acquire a large number of items and retain them indefinitely, right? So what exactly is spaced repetition? I'm going to show you a really quick video right now so you can kind of see what it is, and then we'll break it down a little bit related to the learning curve. So let me just switch screens really quick. And I did see a question come in through the portal. Right after I do this, I will answer your question, but just give me a moment to finish my portion of the presentation. So hold on, I think, let me just stop the screen share and, okay, here we go. All right.
From the day you take your first breath to the day you take your first steps, from the day you speak your first words in a new language to the day you discover the passion of your life, you're always learning. We all spend so much time learning. So it's worth asking, what is the best way to learn? Is there anything we can do to learn things more quickly and remember them longer? The usual way we approach learning is also one of the worst. We've all been there. Before an exam or interview or presentation, we cram as much information into our noggins as we can and leave it at that. Ask us a couple of months later though, and our precious new knowledge is nowhere to be found. The science behind learning actually tells us there's a better way to get smarter, faster. According to the science, the most efficient way to learn is by using a technique called spaced repetition. A spaced repetition system works by asking you to review information at increasingly longer intervals. So if you learn something today, a spaced repetition system might show it to you again tomorrow, then in 3 days, then next week, and so on until it has lodged itself securely in your long-term memory. Spaced repetition algorithms can also optimize your review intervals according to your performance by tracking how well you remember each item. The algorithms can adjust individual intervals so that you spend more time with those things you can never remember and less time with those things you already know well. The result, much less time spent actually studying while remembering everything much better. Whether you're training to be a professional, learning a new language, or just love knowing a little about everything, all you need is your phone and a bit of time each day to incorporate spaced repetition into your routine. With CleverDeck, you can get...
So let me go back to my PowerPoint now. All right. So we watched the video that gave you kind of a brief description of what spaced repetition is. And if you want to watch it again, I've provided the link here. But the gist is we don't want to cram all this substantive skill information into our brains during the summer that you're studying for the bar. 2 months, quite honestly, is not enough to remember all the information. So this theory called spaced repetition is going to mitigate something we call, which is the forgetting curve. And the forgetting curve is a real thing in law school because I guarantee you that you probably do not remember everything you learned during your first year in law school, right? It's been a while. If I asked you right now what the elements were for a valid contract, I'm not sure you'd be able to tell me. And so this is what we call the forgetting curve. The first time you actually saw the information, you memorized it during your 1L exams. After that, you probably won't look at it again until you start studying for the bar after you graduate. And we're trying to make sure that you don't forget all this information, and we want to store it into your long-term memory. So for example, you can see this dotted line right here from memorization. If you never review it again, there is a chance after 60 days or 50 days, however many months, that you won't remember anything you learned from your finals. It just goes in your brain and then it purges out. However, if you have a first, second, third, and fourth reminder, if you look at the dotted lines, or the first reminder has a solid line, and then you can see there's a second reminder that has a little heavier dotted line, and then the third reminder that has a light dotted line. Every time you see it and you space out the information, you're able to recall and retain more of the information. And so what we're trying to do, which is why we encourage you to take more bar classes and start reviewing earlier in the summer or during your 3L year, is to mitigate this forgetting curve, because you're less likely to forget if the information is stored in your long-term memory. So what does this look like in terms of our suggestion? We learned the subject in law school. We memorized it. We took the final. Sometime during your 2L year, your summer, or your 3L year, we want to start reviewing those tough subjects or those subjects that we took. Because that'll give you your first, your second, and your third reminder that will hopefully help you remember the information long term. And then, of course, the fourth reminder happens when you review the subject during the bar prep season. And so this will make it much easier. Now, do you have to do this for every single subject on the bar exam? No. You probably just want to do it for subjects that you thought were tough or that were on the MBE portion that use a lot of detail, so that there are less subjects that you need to worry about during the actual bar prep season itself. Now, we're telling you to do all this. We're telling you to review things, but you're probably thinking, well, where am I going to get all this information, especially if my school doesn't have an ASP program? And so what resources you can use to practice that we have available to you? And so there's 3 things that we would recommend. The first is, of course, and this is in no particular order, but there's the NCBE that has the actual study aids. You can buy them for $50 online, or you can go to your state bar's website. There's usually going to be past essays and practice exams that are available for free. For example, California has all the exams for the past 5 to 6 years posted on the website that you can start looking at and reviewing. For us, CLEO students, we've actually arranged a great opportunity through Mpre for you to get access to all of their online and law school and bar preparation program materials, which includes their guides, which includes practice questions, which includes outlines, and it's $360 for 3 years. But the original price was $1,495, so it's quite a deep discount. So if you want to start studying, all the stuff you need for all 3 portions of the exam should be on Mpre. Now, for your law school, bar preparation, and ASP programs, I definitely would contact them and see what they have available to you. They might also have some sort of arrangements with other external companies, or even have classes or free workshops that you can attend. And remember, even though it's free, it's included in your tuition, which is why I always encourage people to go ahead and take advantage of this resource, because you're paying for it already anyways. And so that's all I have for you today. It's just, this is what we recommend that you should be doing and why you should be doing it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for questions for everybody. So let me go ahead and bring all the panelists back and stop my screen share. So I'll stop my screen share, and then we'll go ahead and see what questions we have in the portal, which I think we have quite a few. So let's see. Questions. All right.
And I'm here. I don't know if you can see me at all, but I'm here.
So what we'll do is I'll read the question out loud, and then we'll just go ahead and answer the questions live instead of texting back, since all 3 of us are here. So the first question that came in was, do you think I can do well in the Mpre even though I'm taking classes this summer? I am nervous and maybe overwhelmed. So does anyone want to take that question? If not, I'm happy to take it.
Well, I'll chime in. I think if you're taking the Mpre in the summer, I don't think that prep is that extensive that you wouldn't be able to do well. I really think that it's a very manageable exam. I think they have a lot of free materials. I think once you get through all those materials, you should be able to do well.
When I've helped people with the Mpre before, if you're working full-time, I usually have them studying about a month ahead of time, just doing study every couple days for each week. Or if you're working part-time, you just take a couple weeks off and you can study for the Mpre, and that's usually enough, but that'd be studying every single day. So you can do it. You just have to plan your schedule properly. And if you do have an ASP program, they can put a schedule together with you, or I'm happy to email you and we can talk more about it. I gave my email in the actual presentation as well.
And I'll chime in as well. I did work full-time in my internship when I took the summer Mpre. I also had 2 teenage children at home because I was a non-traditional student, and I did pass for all the states or for both the states where I'm licensed. So yes, you can do it. You do have to start early and have the carved out time to study every day.
And a related question that came in was the Mpre is next Saturday, March 23rd. Does anyone have any final advice going into, I guess, the last week before the exam is about to occur?
Practice. Mm-hmm. Yep, just keep doing. I think I was able to get some practice full exams. I believe when I did it, Barbary had a free Mpre course that included 2 sample tests, I believe. So I did those. I did every question that I could get my hands on.
I think Barbary might actually have 3 to 4 now. They have more.
Oh, okay.
So if you haven't done those, make sure you do all of them and you review all the answers in the back. Mm-hmm. And I encourage you to actually memorize the law. So a lot of people go into Mpre and they're just like, oh, I'm just going to use my gut feeling. But a lot of times what you think is the right answer, if you actually knew the law, is not always the right answer. So here, as you do questions, memorize the law and make sure you know and understand the law, and you just don't do hundreds of questions without actually processing the information. So that's the most important thing, is I would say memorizing this next week and making sure you do as many practice questions as you can so that you can memorize better and understand the law.
And I think, Professor Chung, that really applies to all of the MBE questions, right? Yeah. Because I think the reality is that students want to cut corners by, if you take 25, let's say, civil procedure questions, and you got 10 correct, you only want to look at the ones you missed. But that's really not a good idea, because by looking at the ones you got correct, you are confirming that you actually know the law. And in most of these exams, the law comes first and the application comes second. And some students want to do it the other way around. And I find that doesn't work as well. So I agree with all of you. And there's so much free available nowadays. Yes. So there's really a lot of materials out there for the Mpre.
If you already did all the Barbary questions, and you did Barbary, or you did all your Kaplan questions, all the Barbary questions give a free course. So I've had students that will go ahead and use all the Barbary questions, and they use it, and then they'll just get the free course from Kaplan and then do the Kaplan questions. Mm-hmm. So really any resource is fine. And so we had a bunch of questions too about Quimby account and whether you can still get the discount. The answer is yes, you can still get the discount for the Quimby account. Whether you need it for the 3 years and the cost being reduced, that is a question that I'm not 100% sure about. I would recommend either emailing me or Linda so that we can answer your question directly. I just don't have the information for you right now, but hopefully I can find that out for you and let you know. I think I know who asked the question, so I'll follow up with you on that one. And so we have another question that says, if you don't get a chance to take all the bar prep classes, would you suggest trying to teach it to yourself this summer?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Does that mean taking a bar exam without taking?
Like you can't take wills and trusts, right? So you can't take wills and trusts this summer. Should you now try to teach yourself wills and trusts this summer? And so I guess I'll take the question. My response to that is it depends on how much time you have this summer and how tough wills and trusts is. If you can get access to materials that let you do low-key studying, like review a video from Barbary and access those materials where you can look at the outline, of course. But as a 2L, it's very hard to learn material completely on your own, and it's a little bit early. I might recommend reviewing material that you learned in your 1L year instead, and then saving some of the material for new bar prep classes that you haven't learned for you to learn in spring, where they have more bar prep classes for 3Ls. So if you can go back and review contracts or review property, that would probably be a better use of your time, especially with spaced repetition. So that gets stored in your long-term memory. And then whatever bar prep classes you couldn't take, you can deal with it in the spring of your 3L year, or even possibly deal with it during the summer, where you have a more formal learning environment for your bar prep company than trying to do it in your 2L year. It's a little early for that. I think it's more about reviewing the subjects you've already taken.
That's a great answer. And I totally agree with it. I made a conscious decision in law school not to take a class that I was not interested in from a practice standpoint, but I knew was going to be on the bar exam, and that was family law. But what I did was I made sure I understood all of the courses that I did take. And to Professor Chong's point, that way of memorizing and spacing it out, I made sure I had a very strong foundation so that bar review, I felt I would be comfortable in relying on bar review for family law. And I think that it was the strength of the foundation I had in the other courses that allowed me to grasp what I needed of family law just in bar review. So that's just a different spin on it, but you do have to really have a mastery of all the classes you do take and spend the summers solidifying and shoring those concepts up. And it does, to me, prime the brain to be able to receive a course during bar review that you didn't take at all in law school.
Particularly, I just want to add, particularly if you don't know that that's even going to be tested, right? Because in Texas, we know that Texas Wills is tested because it's on the bar for the essays. But for the multi-state essay exams, it may not even be tested, right? So it's a good idea to have some idea about it, but you don't need to spend a lot of time when you know other topics that will be tested are the ones you really need to get better at. So
that's true.
And so the next question we have is, what is the best way to prep for those of us in evening programs? I'm transferring to start a new school in the fall and didn't attend the spring semester. And this person works full-time and is halfway through the second year right now.
I love evening students. I'll jump in on that one. When I taught, I had evening students and day students. And my evening students just got it. They had a schedule that they stuck to because they had other responsibilities of work and sometimes families. So when they studied, they were very, very focused, and that's all they were doing was studying. So there was no surfing the web or answering text messages or taking pictures of themselves. They were diligent and focused on studying. And to that is a great advantage going into bar review, that evening students, sometimes older students or students that have a lot on their plates, that's an advantage that they have in bar review. So for you, I would look at that as an asset. If you can get through 3 years of law school and graduate with a decent LGPA, with all of the other things that you have going on in your life, take that same spirit, that same energy and dedication into bar review, and you absolutely will be successful. Schedule makes all the difference in the world.
I completely agree. I worked with a lot of evening students when I worked at USF before I came back to Irvine. And the students that I had on the evening program, which was a 4-year program instead of a 3-year program, we would just start their actual bar prep earlier, where they would be creating materials, learning new material as early as the summer of their 2L year, and then we'd continue it through their 3 and 4L year, mostly because the people who work full-time and are in part-time programs, it is very hard to get the 2 months off of work when you actually have to study for the bar exam. So full-time students, they have nothing else going on during that summer before they take the exam because they don't have work, they don't have school, they have nothing. But most people in part-time programs can't stop their life to stop working. They need to pay rent, they need to do other things. So that's where you can start studying earlier and creating some of the materials and understanding what classes you can take to help you. That's why I would take bar prep classes, skills classes, substance focus classes. And I would also start saving. So that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't think about is when you work full-time in your part-time program, when you do want to take the time off, it's nice to have extra money during that time. So if you can start saving now, if you're in the middle of your 2L year, have like a bar fund, then it gives you a little bit more freedom in the summer of your 4L year after you graduate to take more time off with from work to study properly. So that's what I'd recommend.
That's so excellent. But you're speaking my language, because when I go to law schools, I talk about the importance of stewardship, and financial stewardship is of the utmost importance. If you are good with your money now, and this is for all students, you will reduce the anxiety you have when you're studying for the bar exam and during your job search. So don't live like a lawyer today, because I really don't even know what that means actually. But if you're thinking Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince or some lawyer that makes a lot of money, that can really mess you up and create unnecessary anxiety. So save money now. Be a good steward over your money, your time, and your body, because you will need all of those things to be at peace when you study for the bar exam. It will all help to bring down anxiety and stress.
And so we had a question about whether the information discussed or the PowerPoint presentations will be released. We will be sending a link that has the full webinar that has all the PowerPoints in it. So we will be giving you that information. Just look out for it. It should be sent within the next couple days. Zoom just needs to process it and export it before we can get the link, which takes them a little bit of time, but we will be releasing that. And then we had one last question, which is, do you have to take the bar exam 2 months after you graduate? And I can take that one. You don't have to. You can take the bar exam, I think, whenever you want. It's just most people take it right after they graduate because they have a job that they might need to be licensed. And just because you take it right after you graduate, for example, California results don't come out until November. So you take it in June or July, August, and then you still have to wait a few months for it to be graded. But we're also one of the states that come out the latest. There's other people that will defer and take it, I think, in February, which is totally fine too if you need more time to study. It just really depends on your life and what's going on.
I want to say that I think I agree with all that, but I think some states do have a timeline after which you cannot take it. I think.
Yeah.
I
don't think Texas, you graduate after 2 months.
No, you're right. No.
Right.
Right.
Usually you have about maybe, I think, and don't quote me on this, but most places will probably be at least you have 2 or 3 cycles that you could take it. So you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years where you have to take the bar after you've graduated, right?
But I think you're right. The point you made is great because taking the bar when you are just out of law school is when you're the freshest, when you're, the best place to take it. So you can skip one cycle, but I wouldn't skip too many because, it's just really not that fresh.
I completely agree with that. And so I'm just going to wait a couple more seconds to see if there are any more questions that are going to come through the portal. Again, the question about the cost being reduced, we'll follow up on that since I have your email address. Let's see. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we had. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Please reach out to any of us if you have any more questions. We're here to support you, and have a good rest of your spring semester. Anything else anyone wants to add?
No, thanks.
Good luck.
Have a great break. Thank you. Great seeing all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.